Have you ever seen somebody's life change in a moment, a single moment? Because that's what we're about to watch. Let's check out this clip.
Sounds fun.
Hey, I'm gonna go hang out with the boys. Do you wanna come with?
No, I'm gonna hang out with girls today.
Hey, I'm gonna go hang out with the boys right now.
Alright, have fun.
Alright, so my girl's been acting super weird. Every time we hang out, she's always on her phone texting other people. I don't know who it is. So I'm gonna hide out. I'm not actually going to hang out with my boys. I'm gonna hide out and I'm gonna catch her. Watch this. Alright, so I just heard a sound outside. I heard a car door. I'm literally hiding upstairs right now. I'm honestly so fucking pissed. Who the fuck is this guy?
No, wait, what happens next? I think the leading cause of homicide of men against women is for infidelity.
I could tell something was wrong just by the fact that she's like texting, not looking up, acknowledging him. I mean, it's obviously not a functional relationship. When people have asked me, okay, so if I've been burned in the past and I've had my trust violated, how am I going to trust women again? And my response is always like, yeah, all right, there may be some work to do there, find some nice women. But fundamentally, the trust that's been broken is with yourself because you got fooled, you got duped. Your job is to understand what's going on around you and to make informed choices. And if you got taken advantage of and manipulated and lied to so easily, then fundamentally you don't trust yourself. And that's the big issue because you're wandering through reality, not trusting your own mental faculties to be able to figure out what's going on.
People don't just lie about massive things like this completely out of the blue. It's usually a characterological thing where they tend to lie. And even if someone's not lying to you, if you notice them lying to other people, if someone invents a reason like, oh, I don't want to go to this party, let's just tell them that we had something else to do. Like little lies like that you start to notice that the people around you happily engage in, that should cue you to something. Like this person's sense of ethics are not very clean.
And of course, there's all the theories about men and women lying for different reasons, right? Which sets up this next clip that I want to play. You know Esther Perel, right?
I do. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan as well, although this clip is definitely an interesting one. Let's watch this.
Do we cheat for the same reason, men and women?
First of all, let's be very clear. Men practically throughout history had a license to cheat. And they had all kinds of theories that came to justify that they are natural roamers, So we have all these evolutionary theories and biological theories to explain why men are not by nature monogamous, whereas women are these domesticated creatures. We don't know what women would do if they were given the permission to do the same without the consequences that they face, which are very different than the one of men. What we know is that men and women lie. Men lie by exaggerating and by boasting and by inflating, and women lie by denying and by minimizing because that is what is expected from them culturally worldwide.
It's a really surprising clip to me because she takes a very socially constructivist perspective, don't you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's as much as I do like her work, I want to hear, if I could ask her a question, I would ask her, what do you feel about evolutionary psychology in general? She seems to suggest, as you implied, that the evolutionary theories behind why men seem to struggle with monogamy more than women do, are just invented, created in order to justify. But it's, if you study the psychology across many different animal species, it actually makes perfect sense with our sexual strategies that the member with the more plentiful sexual resource, which is sperm, is going to be less discriminatory with that resource, which is why you see men having a far lower far lower bars that need passing for a one-time sexual encounter than women. There's famous studies on that you've actually talked about on your channel. We shouldn't be surprised that these theories maybe, quote, came to justify, but they didn't come out of nowhere in a vacuum. We didn't just invent this asymmetry.
100%. It's just why I found her comments so surprising. It's always weird to me when people assume that what seems obvious in terms of biology for every other species on the planet just magically doesn't seem to apply to humans. Now, the moral question, aside from the practical one of whether it's okay for men to be committing infidelity at such rates, is obviously separate. And I don't think you or I are the kind of people that are so crazy down the male supremacist path that were like, yeah, men can do whatever they want and it's all just kind of natural. I would hold a man accountable for cheating to the same degree that I'd hold a woman accountable. But when we're talking about men cheating more, like, I get it. And let me just pull up this this graph. This is from the Institute of Family Studies, which does show like infidelity is more common amongst men, especially in the older years. It's not by a massive margin. You can see right there that there is a section where women are committing infidelity at a higher rate, but it's only 1%. I'd say it's within the margin of error, and it makes sense when women are young. But like right here, this is not a positive graph for men. I'm like, right, that's not good. But let's talk about that because there is a reason why men cheat more often than women do. Men and women cheat for different reasons. When a woman cheats on her male partner, it's more deeply significant, her reasons for cheating. It reflects something more serious. And biologically speaking, because of the paternity certainty, the consequences are potentially more dire. It's more likely to lead to the destruction of the relationship.
The equivalent between women cheating is not men cheating, but men abandoning their wife and children. They're more similar in terms of what's actually happening on an evolutionary level.
I don't know if you ever read the John Gray books, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. In the preamble to one of the sequels to that book, he told the story of his father, who he discovered all of these Polaroids up in the attic when he was a young kid of the business trips that he'd take. And these much younger women, 20, years younger than his father, and they're out at bars. And he was just absolutely struck. He never knew any of this stuff, but he was struck by how different his father seemed. His father looked relaxed, happy, like kind of carefree, just a different expression, something that he never saw because his perception of his father at home was a man who was very serious, very weighed down by responsibilities. And he talked to his mother about this. I certainly hope I'm remembering the story correctly. And she knew, not in terms of the details, but she knew that the husband was going off and doing these kinds of things. And he asked her, weren't you furious? Didn't you feel massively betrayed? And her response is somewhat inspiring, but it's mostly depressing. I thought. She said, look, your father was a wonderful father to you children and a fantastic provider. And he never brought any of that home, never humiliated me in front of our friends. He always kept it off to the side. And in a sense, I always felt respected by that. And I find that incredibly depressing in the sense of, look at what she had to settle for. Here was a mother who ostensibly was a good mother doing everything right, and yet she couldn't expect for her husband to be faithful to her. But in the other sense, it's somewhat inspiring in that she's not going to take that single weakness that his father had and then use it to judge who he is as the totality of a person. She was still able to recognize, instead of just abandoning his family, like I had seen happen to so many of my friends with their husbands when that desire to stray and to seek sexual variety had hit them, he kept it, to the side. He kept it out of our business, and he never allowed it to interfere with his real role as a husband, a father, and a provider. And I respect him for that.
It's hard for me to relate because I really can't get into the shoes of a woman when it comes to infidelity, because it's just, the sexual strategies are just not comparable. It's such a big deal for men because it just completely makes him a huge sucker by raising another man's child. But hypothetically, a man who still provides and takes care of his children and strays doesn't have the same catastrophe on the woman, assuming he doesn't leave.
It's why I say that a man cheating on his partner doesn't necessarily have the same significance as a woman cheating on her. Completely immoral, not justifying it whatsoever. But the thing is that a man can be mostly satisfied inside his relationship, but if he doesn't have sufficient self-control, or he's not a particularly moral person and he doesn't really consider the impact of his partner, he might cheat on his partner. And then when they're having a discussion, like an argument about it later, when he gets caught, she's like, why did you do this? You don't love me. You don't find me attractive. You don't want to sleep with me anymore. Like, how could you hurt me? And he's sort of thinking, I don't know. Now that you put it like this in front of me, it's difficult for me to justify why I slept with that woman, but I wasn't thinking about you. I'm reasonably happy in our relationship. I still want to have sex with you. But you know what? I'm a horny guy. She was there. It just happened. It felt good. I'm dumb. I don't know. You know, like there's a lot of cases of male infidelity that can go like that. And guess what? There are not cases of female infidelity that go like that because women cheat for a different reason.
Yeah, they absolutely do. This is an interesting survey, interesting data that comes out of surveys, and when people confront their partners about cheating, often the women will ask, "Do you love her?" And the men will ask, "Did you fuck him?" Like that's the first questions that come out of their mouths, respectively. That's because they're thinking about totally different things, and it shows that they care about different things, and that also ties back into the evolution. But for so many men, when men cheat, they usually don't fall in love with their mistress or whatever you'd call her, but women often do. It's fascinating data on that too. This is more evolutionary psychology, more David Buss. Read everything he writes. The women so often are essentially monkey branching with their infidelity. They are searching the market for a new partner, and then they trade up, and then they'll stick with him for a while. They'll serially monogamize themselves up the chain. Men frequently don't do that. It's like you described, Alexander. It's often once, it's thoughtless, and it doesn't usually suggest a whole lot about the relationship as much as it suggests the bad context he was in and his lack of self-control.
Most of the women who cheat do so more in line with what you just described. It's the step towards trading up. It's a monkey branching strategy. Like if they're cheating on their partner, they are looking to actually replace that as their primary partner, which would make sense why they're, more likely to fall in love with their partner. And also I would say that there are women who intentionally create a conflict or a drama in order to end the relationship. A lot of women, they're not necessarily courageous enough to actually say, I'm not happy, I want to make a change, because they're so geared to safety when they've got a boyfriend who's still meeting their needs somewhat. To actually be the one to just say, no, it doesn't matter, I'm done, can be a little bit frightening. They almost need some precipitating event. And so you find women cheat in a really sloppy way sometimes. Like, God, like, were you trying to get caught? Kind of. Like subconsciously, yeah, possibly, because then once that happens, then she's finally got the excuse to actually break free from this boyfriend.
At any time I've found myself in a situation where I'm tempted to judge a woman for her sexual history, my first thought is, what about my sexual history? How do I feel about my own? And how would they feel if they knew the extent of my life? And that has almost always humbled me, because I'm certainly not perfect, and I've certainly made errors that I wish I didn't make.
I mean, I appreciate that self-reflection that you're doing, but just to bring it back to the differences between men and women here, you've probably noticed that you care more about the sexual history of your partner than she cares about your sexual history. And
that is definitely true.
I mean, it just reflects that biological reality, I suppose. Like you ask women, what would threaten you more? I think I heard Brett Weinstein give this example. What would be more threatening to you? Your man having a sexual affair with a woman who he has contempt for, or a man having a deep friendship with a woman where he shares vulnerabilities about himself that he doesn't share with you and then gives her resources? And that's
the emotional affair.
Right. In a lot of cases, not in every case, but in a lot of cases, that speaks to women. And a lot of men hear that and they're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like the moment that she fucks the other guy, that's when I'm suddenly getting really concerned. I'm sitting up and I'm paying attention. But you need to understand that's you. That's you coming from a male perspective. Women are different, because as it relates to their evolutionary sexual strategy, what they're absolutely terrified about happening is you sleeping with another woman, getting her pregnant, and then suddenly your resources are split, or you decide that you're going to go for that other woman. She's going to be left in the most vulnerable position of all. She's going to be left raising a child. She's not going to know how she's going to provide for them in terms of resources, who's going to protect her against would-be attackers, who's going to protect her children. She's got no one in her corner. And so any indication from you that you're interested not just in sexual infidelity, but emotional infidelity, like, this is taking you away, your resources are leaving me. That's what triggers her massive fears. And so you can see from that perspective, you having an affair with a woman that you have contempt for, that you don't even enjoy spending time with, is logically less threatening than you having a non-sexual affair with a woman who you have a deep connection with, because she's actually a bigger threat to her stability.